When most people that have been to Port Crescent, Michigan, what they think of is its sandy dunes along the coastline of Lake Huron, its hiking trails through the woods, or its very popular campground. What people don't know is that Port Crescent at one point was a very large and successful booming town at the tip of the thumb of Michigan. It was so large it had 17 blocks and many factories. People don't understand what they're walking on, the foundations of forgotten past lives and the history. Today, we are going to be diving into that, and then follow me over to the cemetery. In the late 1830s, Walter Hume came to live and trade amongst the native tribes in the Thumb. There, Walter Hume lived among the natives peacefully for many years. In 1844, Walter Hume decided to build a trading post and a hotel. When the business Woods and Company came to town, they opened up shop right at the mouth of the Pinnebog River, feeding out to Lake Huron. The settlement was originally called Pinnebog, but a post office a few miles north of there was also named Pinnebog, and it led to mass confusion. So they decided to name the place Port Crescent. They named it after its natural crescent shape that the Pinnebog River carved out itself. So officially, in 1851, Port Crescent was founded, and three men by the names of Hanks, Butters, and Thompson built a sawmill right at the mouth of the Pinnebog River. What essentially started off as just a hotel and a lumber camp formed into a large village. It covered over 17 blocks with a population of more than 500 people. The industry in Port Crescent grew very quickly. The small lumber camp soon grew to a large village with 2 sawmills, 2 salt plants, a corporage that manufactured barrels for shipping fish and salt, a grist mill, a wagon factory, a boot and shoe factory, a pump factory, a brewery, several stores, 2 hotels, 2 blacksmith shops, a post office, a depot, and a telegraph office, and, believe it or not, a frickin' roller rink. Unfortunately, if this booming, thriving town still existed, I wouldn't be having it on my channel. There is a catch. This town, and many others in the Thumb of Michigan, suffered from a great loss due to the great fires of 1871 and 1881. Port Crescent itself was not affected so much by the first fire of 1871. But what that fire did not get, the fire of 1881 consumed what was left from the previous decade. After the fire of 1881, Port Crescent did not give up easily. So instead of lumbering that all got burnt down, they converted to farms and sand mining. They used the sand in copper smelting for the UP and for glass making, but that didn't last so long either. In the 1930s, what remaining buildings from the fire were left were moved elsewhere to different townships. And then World War II happened, taking most of the able-bodied men away and overseas. Where there were successful businesses and factories was now covered by the winds and sand and the waves of Lake Huron. What used to be homes of happy families raising their children and their future are now all covered in decay and woodlands, trees, and swamps. So, if you do your research on Port Crescent before you come, make sure when you're walking through the trails, you show some respect to the pioneers that worked so hard, but yet are now forgotten with time. Now we'll head over to the Port Crescent Cemetery, where we can look into the lives of some of these pioneers, some of their happy moments, and some of their tragic endings. This is the family of Christian Schlegelmilch. He is from Germany. I do not know how to pronounce the last name, so please excuse me. Christian, German last name, was born February 20th, 1824 in Prussia, which is now modern-day Germany. He opened up the Pinneberg/Port Crescent's first grist mill. Working and operating a mill ran in Christian's family. Christian's father worked as a miller until he died in 1836, when Christian was only 12 years old. Christian took over managing the mill, which his mother had inherited after his father's death. When he turned 20, he entered the 12th Cavalry Regiment of the German Army and served 3 years. After his discharge, Christian worked at his father's mill until he and his mother sold it in 1849 and came to America. They first landed in Quebec, then Christian voyaged up the lakes to Buffalo, then Cleveland, Rochester, New York, and where he found his brother. Then they pushed further north from Ohio into now the thumb of Michigan. When they first arrived to Port Crescent, there's only a handful of villagers and settlers. It was mostly unbroken fords, teeming with wildlife surrounding it. He opened a grist mill, and he called it Port Crescent Flouring Mills, and he used it to steam power and operate them, often producing 160 barrels of flour per day. Just after 3 months of operating, the first grist mill burnt down. It should have been a shadow of what's to come, but he immediately rebuilt it. Christian was widely known for his fame of excellent quality flour. Christian ended up owning 4 improved village lots in Hume and Meade townships and 280 acres of farmland. In 1853, he lost $3,000 from a barn fire. And in 1881, that's when he lost everything. After the Great Fire of 1881, that did not dissuade him at all. In 1884, he was elected Justice of the Peace and also served as a highway commissioner for 2 years after. That guy definitely had one hell of a run before his passing away. Now we move on to the Grace family. August Grace was a Civil War veteran. He was born January 16, 1834, and died June 19, 1892. Him and his wife, Anne, had 2 children. Unfortunately, the children did not make it. Edward, their son, died at 2 years old of inflammation of the lung, and Minnie, their daughter, died at 17 years old, also of inflammation of the lung, which I believe was TB. So, just take a minute and enjoy the beauty of this cemetery. When I come to cemeteries like this, I always see how I can leave the place better than when I first arrived. A lot of these strong pioneers laid the foundation, and they went through the hardships that we don't have to face today. So next time you come to Port Crescent, Michigan, make sure you stop by the cemetery and pay a little respects. Among these headstones lie a lot of children. These children all died from different illnesses that we now have medicine and cures for that they did not have often. So just be thankful for what we have today. And when you walk across the Fire Trail Bridge into the hiking trails of Port Crescent, remember the foundations that you're walking on that were forgotten in the sands of time. So that wraps it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and I can bring you more of Michigan's history to your screen.
Well, all right, I hope you guys enjoyed that little tour and that little history lesson I just gave you. Hopefully I found a decent amount. But you know, you got 15 minutes to spare. You're in the Port Crescent area. This is a really nice freaking place to walk around. So, you know, seeing it on video does not beat in person. So I suggest you guys get out there and you do some exploring yourselves. All right, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you later. Those things are way heavier than they appear. That sucks. There's probably a lot of big bucks around here. I lost my phone case and I had to come back for it. It doesn't fit on my tripod.